What is up, guys? My name is Jason Ankin and this is my vlog channel. So today's vlog, I'm going to talk about the concept of being an introvert. So being an introvert, this is something that I have talked about in the past. In fact, a number of my most popular videos are discussing this very topic. In particular, my videos on being an INTJ, an introverted, intuitive, thinking, judging type. In fact, my INTJ videos are probably my most popular videos on my channel at the minute, and most of my subscribers, my current subscribers, probably came through those videos. So I want to continue the theme on of being, what it's like to be an introvert, and some of the sort of positives and negatives that I've experienced throughout the last couple of years of my life. So basically, I wasn't typically introverted from a very young age. In fact, from a very young age, I was actually extremely extroverted, especially when I was in my when I was a child and when I was in my teens. I was very sociable, and even right up until my, I guess, early 20s, I was still very sociable, but I started to notice a shift round about the time of my early 20s. I started to become much more, started to spend much more time by myself and started to realize a lot of the things that I was doing socially wise weren't that fulfilling. So yeah, it would be interesting to know as well whether any of yous out there were initially very extroverted and then over your lifetime became progressively more and more introverted, because I don't know whether that's typical. One of the sort of debates that is going on, especially within the MBTI movement, the Myers-Briggs type indicator, which is the personality test. I type as an INTJ, as I mentioned. I've heard a discussion that your type's fixed and that you can't change your type. And I have to disagree with this to a certain extent. And the reason why I have to disagree with this is because from my own experience, but not only that, I study a lot of psychological training. So I study as much psychological training as I do physical training. And I know that there are actually techniques out there that you can use. I have stacks of books that I could pile up right here and show you all of the different techniques that you could use to manipulate and change your personality to become more extroverted or become more introverted, or to become more task oriented or relationship oriented, etc. So yeah, I'm on the side that your personality is mutable to a certain extent, but in order to have one of those changes, it has to be like a deep internal quantum shift. You have to have like a complete conviction that you're changing. It's not like you can just wake up one day and then all of a sudden decide I'm going to be more extroverted or I'm going to be more socially orientated. It has to be a deep internal burn your bridges decision, because I noticed this myself because I've experienced that exact same thing. When I was around about, so like I mentioned, as a kid, as a teen, and in my early 20s, I was pretty extroverted. But around about the time in my mid-20s, I started to, see, I've been following MBTI, Myers-Briggs type indicator, for about 10 years now. And I always used to type as an ENTJ, an extroverted, intuitive, thinking, judging type. And that was in the early part of my 20s. But after, in my later part of my 20s, I started to type more as an INTJ. And this I pinpoint, this occurred due to a shift in my my orientation. I became much more intrinsically motivated. So for example, around about 2012, I was basically getting into a bit of a rut. So I could more or less predict my week, and I wanted a massive change in my life. So it was, I always remember Albert Einstein's quote of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And basically this is what I was doing. You know, I was getting up, I was going to the gym in the morning, I would work as a lifeguard in the evening, I would go out at the weekend, get drunk, wake up on Sunday, broke, feeling guilty, and basically I would get up and repeat the weekend, or repeat the week again. So this became a repetitive cycle, a repetitive pattern that I basically started to become consciously aware of. And what I wanted to do was break the cycle. And basically, so Albert Einstein's quote says, you're doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. So this is what I was doing in my own head. I had all these goals and these ambitions and these things that I wanted to achieve, but yet I was continuing the same old behaviors that weren't taking me towards those expectations. So at that point, towards the end of 2012, I decided I'm going to make a shift. I'm going to make a total shift. I'm going to get rid of all of this stuff that's no longer serving me anymore. I'm going to start to reorientate myself towards my own personal interests, because your time is limited in life. And it just kind of hit me, like, if you don't get going towards your goals, you're never going to get going towards them. So I made sacrifices. And obviously this is a switch in motivation. There's these things called extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. So extrinsic is more motivated by things outside of you, trophies, money, stuff like your social interactions, parties, popularity, stuff like that. Whereas intrinsic motivation is being motivated after things because you enjoy them, because it brings you satisfaction, because you're interested in them. It's something that it's basically your own internal drive. And basically that switch in motivation, I believe, was the reason why I started to type as an INTJ after that, because I became much more intrinsically motivated. And obviously intrinsic's more internal directed. And the following year, 2013, it was one of my best years. I quit smoking, I quit drinking, I got my black belt in jiu-jitsu, I set up a martial arts club, set up a fitness consultation business. I started my degree, my HNC in sports science. So a lot of good things happened in that year. But I definitely noticed that my social life took a massive dive, meaning that within 3 months I was basically asocial. I wasn't hanging about with anybody, I was just pursuing my own goals. So for me this was a massive, I guess, shift in my sort of personality, where I became much more introverted. And this is my sort of my own personal experience of why I believe that you can make personality and temperamental shifts if you have this deep guttural it has to be a fundamental change in your total outlook of life. It's not something that you can just, like I said, you can't just wake up one day and just decide to be different. There has to be an underlying motive. There has to be your beliefs have to affect your change and stuff like that. So yeah, basically from there I started to type as an INTJ, and ever since, which is obviously it's 2019 now, so that's a good, yeah, six or so years where I've lived my life predominantly more as a very, very an introverted kind of person. Now obviously I'm quite lucky because growing up as an extrovert, it meant that I had developed a lot of extrovert traits and a lot of extrovert qualities. I have noticed that a few people have mentioned on my videos that I'm quite a good speaker and I'm quite good at articulating my thoughts and stuff like this. And this is probably because I'm quite confident when I'm talking. I'm quite confident to speak outward about what I think and what I feel and stuff like that. And this is probably something I've developed as an extrovert. But it's also the fact, other experiences that I've had. I used to be in the army, that massively improved my confidence. I'm a martial artist. You know, as a martial artist, I used to teach kids in martial arts for 8.5 years. So there was a social element to that. Every week I was teaching juniors in martial arts, teaching small groups, large groups, etc. So I always had to give instructions and articulate with my voice. And also I've worked as a gym instructor. I've worked as a gym instructor for 7 years, and the job role involved giving people one-to-one gym inductions, consultations, and giving people taking fitness classes where you have to be extroverted and sort of, you know, use your communication in an effective way while giving instructions and stuff like that. So I have spent many years developing my ability to communicate and my ability to give instructions and stuff like that in many different ways. But having said that, even though I've developed these traits and developed these qualities, I myself temperamentally still feel introverted. So for example, I've got a new job now. I don't work as a gym instructor as often as I used to. I was a casual gym instructor, and I've kind of don't do as many hours now because, well, I have a new job and I don't need to. And also one of the main drives, especially over the last 2 years, is that I was becoming very uncomfortable working as a gym instructor. So even though I was capable of doing the job, I just started to become very uncomfortable. Gyms are very busy. You know, there's up to 600 members in the gym. There's loud music all the time. And like I said, you have to be this extroverted person. Everyone's expecting you to be full of energy and full of life. And, you know, especially during classes, I'm not like that. I'm very task orientated. So I'm very good at instructions and consultational work and giving people information and stuff like that. But when it comes to the sort of hyper social gym instructors, you know, the typical gym instructor, they'll come in, they'll be wearing like all the loud clothing, they'll be wearing like luminous pink or whatever, and they've got all their hair all over the place, and they're just very like upbeat and energetic, and they're probably better suited for that job role than myself. Temperamentally, I would probably be better suited for maybe like a sports science type job where I would basically test athletes' fitness, you know, bring athletes in, test their fitness, and then they would leave. You know, very little social interaction. You know, just give me data, kind of thing. Or another job role that I might be kind of good at would be exercise referral. So this is basically when you would receive GPs would basically refer clients to an exercise referral specialist. And it would usually be because somebody has some sort of health conditions or something like that. Maybe they're obese, maybe they got high blood pressure, maybe they got high cholesterol. And basically I would have to work with them to improve their health. I think I would be much better suited to that job role because it's more instructional based and one-to-one. And you don't have to be this kind of, you know, entertainer. And you're not trying to sell your class or sell, you know, make sales to customers and clients and stuff like this. You're just doing a job. You're using the knowledge that you have to the best of your ability. So that's what I've started to notice, like over the last, I would say 2 or 3 years working as a gym instructor. I started to really notice my temperament is just, I'm not ideally suited for this job. And the job that I do now is a bit more suited to my temperament because I basically work by myself most of the time. I don't want to give too many details about what it is that I do or where I work and stuff like that. But basically, it's called a center attendant, and I basically run a large center. And hold on, get a bit more light in here. And so it's kind of an independent job. I will open the building by myself. I'll close the building by myself. I'll do cleaning. I will set up activities. I'll take down activities. I will deal with customers on a one-to-one basis and deal with money and stuff like this. So it's a bit of an all-rounded kind of job. It's a good stepping stone job into management, which is something I think I might also be interested in, or maybe I work in something related to human resources or something like that. I need a more thought-orientated job rather than a more yes, I want a job where I'm using my mind more and dealing with things like coming up with plans and strategies and projects and stuff like that, and delegating and managing people and stuff like that. I think that would be a cool sort of, I'd be interested in doing something like learning and development, a learning and development officer, so it may be something I get into in the future. But yeah, some of the main, I would say, we'll start with benefits first. So some of the benefits that I've noticed from being an introvert is one, like I said initially, you're much more intrinsically motivated. So you're much more likely to pursue the things that you're interested in. This is something actually I was in work yesterday, and you know, one of the other employees asked me, you know, what sort of music are you into? And I kind of went, I don't have a specific genre of music that I'm interested in, nor do I, and she's like, do you ever go to concerts? Do you ever go to like concerts and stuff like this? And I was like, I've been to one heavy metal concert in my life, and no, so I don't do concerts. And the reason why I don't do concerts is because I have this thing where I don't like being a fan. I don't like following, I don't know, I don't like following groups or teams or individual player, you know, celebrities and stuff like this. I could never really be a fan. So like, she's going to watch some sort of boy band or something, you know, or her boyfriend bought tickets for her or something, so she's going to watch this boy band. I could never go to a concert and just like cheer to some sort of random band. I don't get it. So stuff like that really bothers me. It's like, so being more intrinsically motivated means that I'm less likely to follow the crowd. You know, where everybody like sort of sees this celebrity or this celebrity group, they'll all run towards them and wow, it's this celebrity. And for me, I'm just like, who are these guys? Like, what does it even matter really? So I'm much more inclined to pursue my own things, and there can actually be disadvantages to this as well, because you end up putting yourself in a position that you differ from others. So making it also harder to relate to others as well. So when everybody's following the crowd, in many respects, they're able to gain much more social opportunities because of that, which is actually beneficial. But for me, it's too much of a, you know, I want to pursue my own individual interests. I'm not necessarily keen on just following a thing because everybody else is, even though there may be more social benefits that you can gain from it. Maybe that's something I could start to integrate into my life, but so yeah, much more as a benefit, I would say we're much more intrinsically motivated, much more likely to be independent, much more likely to think for ourselves. Another benefit would be, again, very curious, in that we tend to question everything. We tend to sort of, you know, because we're looking in, we have this inner monologue rather than sort of socializing, asking others for, you know, what do you think of this? We tend to go the opposite way, and we just ask ourselves, what do we think of this? And that can lead to a lot of research. So you can end up going on the internet and researching things on Google, or you can research things on YouTube, and you can end up going down these rabbit holes, or you'll buy lots of books to try and help you solve the problem. And the benefit to that is basically you'll end up gaining in knowledge and gaining in insight. So that's one of the other benefits. One of the other benefits would be, so let me see, I would say much more creative in the way that we think. I would say introverts can end up becoming much more creative. And this is something, a bit of a paradox again, that the conversations that you would have with an introvert are much more likely to be more meaningful, and they're much more deep and much more broad, as opposed to extroverts tend to be a little bit more light, a little bit more shallow in their conversations. And the paradox is that if you actually wanted to indulge yourself socially, it would actually be much better to spend time socializing and interacting with an introvert, because you would gain so much insight. You would learn so much. You would and it's kind of the paradox of being an introvert, is actually the introverts could actually be significantly better communicators of thoughts, ideas, meaning, purpose than extroverts. So it's a bit of a paradox that actually, introverts can be much more creative and much more open and much more, you're much more likely to delve into things like meaning, and therefore you would have a much more deeper interaction with an introvert. Some of the disadvantages, I would say, especially in modern society is pretty extroverted, at least in Western culture. I think maybe more in Eastern culture it would be a little bit more introverted. But definitely in Western culture tends to be much more extroverted. And it actually seems to promote it as well. And this goes back to the idea that personality is somewhat mutable. Why is it that the West is more extroverted? Why is it that the East is more introverted? And it's obviously because of their culture in large part. So you can see how extroversion has been to a certain degree conditioned within the West, and introversion has been conditioned to a certain degree within the East. So yeah, I would say the disadvantages to try and be an introvert in an extroverted world, you basically limit your experiences, because everything's geared towards socializing or interacting more, and you basically limit your own experiences within this culture. Like people like going out and partying and drinking and going and watching football matches and stuff like that. And even in our culture it would be like go and watch the band parades and all of these big festivals, social occasions. These are not for an introvert. Again, I used to be doing this stuff when I was younger, but when I was older, I've noticed that I don't do that stuff. I don't go to band parades. I don't watch football matches. I don't go to concerts. I even struggle going to pubs and clubs because they're just too loud and too many people. Other disadvantages, just essentially, being alone. That's one of the main disadvantages. But it's again a paradox, because introverts in many respects are motivated to stay by themselves. So I actually enjoy solitude, but then you can also have too much, and then it can be a bit like you get like cabin fever, where you kind of like you get lost in your own kind of world, and basically nowhere to sort of like vent what's going on in your head. In kind of many respects, this is what these videos are about, because I don't socialize a great deal. I do martial arts, so I'm socializing at my martial arts club, and I socialize at work and stuff like that. But these videos in large part are like a relief valve. I'm trying to get the stuff that's in my head out before it makes me burst, kind of thing. But yeah, that would be, you spend too much time alone, so you become quite asocial. And again, it's a paradox, because in general, you don't want too much socialization. You don't want to be spending too much time with people, because people can be too draining. And also the organization, even the process of trying to meet up with somebody, that whole process just is too inefficient. I guess this would be maybe my INTJ-ness, where I'm kind of able to organize things and then stick to them and then follow through on them. Going through trying to meet up and organize a group meeting with all of your friends and trying to get them all together, and all of that's just, it takes too much time and effort. And then when you actually socialize, it can be kind of you're ready to go after a couple of hours. So yeah, you spend too much time alone. It would be much better, in all honesty, it would be better if I could meet a number of like-minded, open-minded introverts to interact with, and then once we're done interacting, we can like go our separate ways, and then a month later meet up again or something. That would be one of the other disadvantages. What other disadvantage? I'll go for one more. Let me see. So one more disadvantage would be finding it difficult to relate to others. Would be another one, because obviously as an introvert, you're much more likely to, like I said initially at the start, you're more likely to pursue your own interests. Like for example, I'm a martial artist. I'm really into fitness. I'm really into mental training and meditation and sort of philosophy and stuff like this. So when you really start to understand these topics and you reach a high level, like for example in jiu-jitsu, I'm a black belt. I don't know any other black belts. I don't know any other. Obviously I'm doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu now, so there's lots of martial arts social opportunities there, and I'm beginning to meet loads of new like-minded individuals. But just the general populace, it's very difficult to relate, especially in our culture. Everyone likes football or rugby. Not many people like martial arts. So it becomes difficult to relate to others. Also, I mean, philosophy, that's out of the question. I would say 99 people out of 100 basically do not like talking about deep topics like philosophy. So that becomes very difficult to relate to others in that sense as well. So that would be probably the other main issue, is that it's very difficult to relate to the general populace, because you're more inclined to pursue your own desires, more inclined to pursue your own interests. So that is my little video for today, talking about a little bit about my journey from extroversion to introversion, and some of the reasons why I think I made that shift, and then a number of the kind of strengths of being an introvert and some of the weaknesses, basically. So that is it for me today. If you have any questions, I would love to know your story. If you were maybe introverted or maybe more extroverted in the past, and did you make a shift towards introversion, or have you been introverted your whole life? Maybe you could post down some of the things that some of the things that you've noticed to be beneficial, and some of the things that you've noticed to be detrimental. If you have any questions, you can post them down in the comment section. If you want to follow me on Instagram, you can follow me at jason.ankin, where I post pictures of me on a regular basis, essentially just tracking my life. So yes guys, thank you for watching. My name is Jason Ankin, and this is my vlog channel. See you later, bye.